adjust the mic a little and just wind back to the beginning of this game. So they've played the anti-chess portion of this series, and AttackSparrow won 3.5, 2.5. Because of the multipliers, VariantsOnly has 7 variants on offer. AttackSparrow has 5. So I think VariantsOnly only needs 5 points out of 12. So after the first 6 games, he's behind 2.5, 3.5. But I think he only needs 5 wins. So again, we're now in the Crazyhouse portion of the match. He's trying to deflect that knight to pressurize that d4 square, and e6 just to protect. And now he's winning this knight. And does white dare to take here or not? So VariantsOnly is the slight favourite, 25. Obviously, he's a candidate in the Crazyhouse World Championship, 2,500 plus, against AttackSparrow, 2,300. A little bit of a puzzle here. So if you were to take here, what would happen to you? You don't have any pawns in hand, so possibly just takes and takes might be an idea. It's fairly clear that VariantsOnly chose Crazyhouse, and AttackSparrow chose anti-chess in answer to Luca's question. So AttackSparrow has gone into a bit of a think here. Either that or my position isn't updating. Which is fair enough. It's a fairly critical position and there are a lot of possibilities. Do you just take back here, but then knight here might come? This is so that you can take here, because then you have rook takes. But just the problem with that is this. This move is tricky, so you can't take it because of knight at f3, and this threatens knight at f3. So it's actually closing up the d file. This could just be taken though, maybe, and slide the king across to f1. So don't see anything decisive here for black just yet. This square is covered. Maybe a knight at h4 is coming possibly at some point. Yeah, so this is actually now g2 is becoming a decisive weakness. The king is in a box with 15 seconds on the clock. So it's a check. Just simply takes. Seems fine. What's the threat? He's sacking a lot of material, but you just need to check. The checks are covered. The pawn checks are covered. A pawn is landing on g2 next, and white's going down. So just a bishop here. Okay, so yeah, that also does the trick. Just having a look at that final position, were there other nice mates? Bishop h3, king g3, rook g. Oh, I see. Yeah, the knight's nice because it controls g2. So rook g2, yeah. Bishop h3, rook g2, but then the king could. Yeah, that would also work. So bishop h3, and rook at g2. Okay, so going into the second of possibly 6 if they go the distance. But as I said, VariantsOnly just needs 5 points. He just needs 2 more wins, and it's a Scandinavian. I expect white will just give up this knight for safety, but apparently not. He's going to instead try and sack it on f7 by the looks of it. So f2 is a potential idea, queen f6 is a potential idea. I think white should just castle, but okay. And there's no reason for VariantsOnly to take unnecessary risks here. So question is, can he ever play d4? But he's not going for that just yet. So he's going for trying to destabilize the knight and then take on e4. That's his basic plan. That's what he in fact does. It's a good plan. Those are the only two good squares for the knight, and neither of them really work. And this doesn't work because you're getting straight in with an attack on the black king. So it looks like a very easy game so far for white. And if ever black takes here, you're very happy to even encourage a trade of queens, because the white king is a lot safer. It's very hard for black to ever fix this hole on g7. It's like you can't ignore this. He couldn't ignore f takes g7. He had to take back. But then if he took back, then he probably is worried he loses all his threats. So what do we have here? Looks like the queen is being lost for a rook. You can't interpose because you can just take. Oh, I'm wrong. The bishop defends. But there's a little trick here. Yeah. Takes, and knight here check would pick up the queen. So the threat here is knight f6 check. So for sure, black is going to try and block off this file, but knight f6 check then won't work because queen takes f6. So black is going to try and block off this g file. And VariantsOnly joking that he got a rover with the rook on g3 without playing a4. So I'm expecting knight at g6. And then is there a good move for white? So knight f6 doesn't work because you can just take it. Knight at f6 would work. Yeah, so knight at g6, what's the correct response? Maybe something like pawn at... Yeah, this doesn't work at all. Pawn at h5, the idea being if you take, then knight at f6. So just trying to pick up an extra knight. Okay, so this is obviously completely lost. White just putting all the material on the board. So if rook comes here, you could even just play h4. If the rook goes back, you could put a pawn on f6, for example. So this game is over. I expect rook g7 will come anyway. Also, yeah. King is actually very safe on d1. And both of these are threats, followed up by a knight on g5. Well, anything wins. So knight at g5 maybe, if you want to pretend to defend this position, but then knight at h6, knight at f6, and oh, this is a very nice mate, drawing the king into the corner, and the Arabian mate with the knight and rook. So with that, VariantsOnly is one game away from clinching this tie. you have choice. These are two popular approaches. That's less popular. Get a face-off between the queens. So can you dare to go king takes knight? And you probably can't. So why not queen here and then take here? He's obviously going for this, but this doesn't work because queen at f6 will defend g7. So yeah, queen at h4 is a lot stronger, because then even queen at f6 you have ideas like bishop to b5 with a pin. So this would have been much more threatening. King takes knight maybe was a bit too dangerous because of, I'm not sure actually if king takes knight was so dangerous. This I was surprised he doesn't go queen f6, so I suspect he has a trap planned. He's trying to look, queen at f6 was completely fine, but if he's playing knight f6, it looks like he has a trap. That's not mate because the queen covers it. So what about knight here, king here? I don't see it. It's queen takes g7. Well, we're gonna maybe we're gonna see it. Queen takes g7. What is the mate? Queen here, king takes knight. What's the idea? Okay, he goes king takes knight instead. Hadn't even considered this one. So some difficulty actually here, because if black does whatever black does at pawn at a6 would be the next move. So you have to play something like queen at c8, but queen at d7, pawn at a6 could be annoying. So queen at d7 you just take here, so that maybe rook here, that might work. Queen at b6 might also be an idea. Just going aggressive. See, I'm not sure that really works. Just queen takes b7. This is not coming with check, so what's the idea? Oh, of course, if you take here, he wants this. Okay, that's important to realize. But king can actually just slide across to here. There's no mate, or it could come up. Lots of choices. I think just sliding back is fine. So I'm going to actually look at this game afterwards, because even queen takes knight looks very close to mating. But is there something I'm missing? Pawn here is sometimes a threat, but I think takes, the rook covers the pawn checks, the bishop covers the pawn check here, so b3 isn't as dangerous as it seems. Knight here looks interesting. Black's development is really hampered by this bishop here. So I really quite like the idea of knight here, because then queen takes knight definitely, queen takes pawn is definitely looking very strong. Yeah, here black is a pawn short of mate, so if white had a pawn it would be mate, but white doesn't have that pawn. So, and And that could... So at some point, for sure, black is just going to put a pawn down. This is a nice move because it covers this. Pawn here is still a threat, followed by this checkmate. So nice play from white here. It's got a mate in 2 threat. But black, I expect, is just going to defend. And then the pawn will land instead on a6. Okay, big time edge as well. And a queen in hand as well. I think he's trying to deflect this knight. So he's trying to go boom, boom. But as I said, is the king... I think he might have got him. So if you go back, queen here's checkmate, and if you go forward, queen here's checkmate. So VariantsOnly gets the win, and I think that's the win of the match. I'm going to actually just have a bit of an analysis of that game, because takes, king d1, bishop takes. So king takes c2 isn't losing on the spot, but the king is a little bit precarious there. So the queen at a4 check looked reasonable. Knight c6 or queen c6, and then you just pick up this one. This one has never been played before, and I was thinking, so why not queen at c? Apparently white can just take the knight. So there's nothing wrong with queen at c6, but apparently at c6 is really annoying. And if takes here, just takes the rook. Okay, so the problem with what was played in the game here is, so why can't white just take here? And there's queen at e1, king takes, bishop f5. Okay, so this is a move I definitely missed. And why can't you just block? Like even a block like this, block like that is not a good idea because of this and this. So you have to be a little bit careful. So after this, you want to be able to come out. So you block here instead. Takes, 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 bishop here, knight d4. And if here, pawn at c2 is still mating, because of bishop takes, queen takes. So king d1. Oh, hang on, when was that queen hanging? Oh, I see, it's a discovery. Picking up the queen. So that's the idea of that line. Bishop f5. Okay, so that's some nice little theory. Or nice idea in this position. So this instead was played. And again, I thought this could be played, but and then the other move I was thinking is this, but apparently that doesn't work. It's too slow. But simply just takes was looking pretty strong. So takes, this king d1. White is actually fine here. Pawn here, king here, and the knight defends this mate. This is also defended. So I thought that was important to notice. Knight here being very creative. Castles is a good response. Queen takes knight is a good response. Takes. And black is actually doing okay simply because white doesn't have the pawn to finish. Knight takes b4 apparently is good. But okay, this came, then this. And he needs a pawn. So he takes the pawn, but it's black to move. Knight 5 to e4. This just takes was good. Queen takes knight. Knight takes was good. Bishop takes. And this is a critical move. Pretty difficult. So king takes bishop. Knight at d4, as happened in the game, leads to checkmate. This is the critical move. White just needs to play king to c3, and he's completely fine. So what was the mistake black made was not playing queen takes e4 directly. Knight takes e4, and then queen at a4. You're threatening this, so you have to block with the queen maybe, but that doesn't work because, yeah. So there's no good block defending this knight. So queen takes knight, and queen here takes this knight was pretty neat, actually. Knight, queen here, b3, and queen takes this knight. That protects the weak square. You could go queen at a8, but you just block. So queen at a8, block or run. Even run is good. So okay, so this was the critical moment. King to c3, and all of these squares are protected. So why can't we go something like this? Bishop takes knight. Yeah, so the problem with king takes is the knight can now land, and it leads to mate. Obviously, if here, queen at b3, here, and here is checkmate. So you had to run the other way. King to a2 is apparently a little bit more difficult, but it's the same. Knight takes, king to a2, queen to b3, king to b1, and c2, checkmate. But okay, I mean that's a nice win from VariantsOnly in a sharp position. And I assume that's it. Oh, they are playing again. Okay, so we see a fast attack from VariantsOnly. Okay, check. He sacks his queen, so he'd better find some mate here. And has he found a mate? Uh-oh. He has to have a little bit of a think. He better not have messed up the mate with 2 minutes 30 on the clock. This is quite scary because, but at least the queen is defending for now. So maybe even this and takes this. Sorry, at c4 and takes this, and you're safe. And safe is good enough. It doesn't work though, because queen takes bishop knight here. Queen takes bishop knight here, king here, and pawn here would be mating. So this is incredibly scary. Oh, he's found it. He's found the mate. Oh, wonderful. He does have mate though. Yes. That was really scary. I'll just show why it was so scary in that final position. If you just go queen takes bishop, there's a very beautiful, I was thinking knight at does knight at e2 first not work? Oh, because queen takes e2 is check. Yeah, so you have to do this in the right order. So you go queen at g2 check, and then knight at e2, and then you take the queen with check, knight f4, and the king is in the box. He's running to here, but queen here will be mate, so knight g5. So if here, queen here is mate, and if here, then queen here is mate. So whichever way the king goes, behind the king is checkmate. So VariantsOnly did have to be careful there, keeping the check. At d3, he's still got 2 pawns in hand. So b3, king b5, a4. He's got just about enough. King a6 here, here. At b4 apparently, and that's mate unless you do this, takes, and bishop at c3. So even the most resistant at d3 was leading to mate, but here was just pawn here and pawn here, checkmate. So the bishop covers the dark squares and the pawns cover the light squares. So let's see if they're playing the full 12 games. Oh, they are covering the full 12 games. Okay. So they've played 10 so far. So 2 more to go. And we have a rover from VariantsOnly. An opening he's very proud of. So he's stopping the bishop on f1 from developing for now. And the thing to be careful of, obviously, in the rover is the opponent doesn't put a pawn on a7 and just queen it while you're not paying attention. So strange old position here. That rook sacrifices itself on g3 and creates a weakness on f2. And notice already here, bishop at e3 was tempting, but he plays bishop b7 first. Yeah, bishop e3 is tempting, but what's the follow-up? Something like bishop at e3, then take the knight, then take the pawn. But is it good? It wins a pawn, but maybe it gives... Yeah, I don't think it is good, because after bishop takes knight, queen takes, and there's a... Yeah, this is not good. Queen takes. Unless there's a refutation. Queen takes, knight at f2 could still come. Rook takes knight, knight takes... Ah, I see. So knight at f2 is his idea here. Knight at f2, that's interesting. But if king g1, we don't have a pawn for checkmate. So, but if king g1, you could just pick up this pawn on d4. And it's not clear rook takes knight is awful, but yeah, you have to give up the queen, because if you go king g1 the next time, then rook at h1 is mate. So white's had to give up the queen and quite a lot of material, but I'm expecting a simple move like queen e7. White doesn't have another bishop. Oh, he's just going straight in. Rook at h2 is the plan, and he's seen the mate, basically. So the point is, if you take the queen, rook at h2, king takes, pawn at g3, king h3, and queen at h2 is checkmate. So he's seen the mate already. And if you don't, then rook at h2 still comes, and then queen takes g3 will follow. So you have to take that queen. That's a very nice finish from VariantsOnly. And AttackSparrow is just using the last of his time to contemplate his demise. Oh, yeah, that also works. Very stylish. Mating with the rook instead of the queen. So, very nice attack there from... and maybe we could just look very briefly. If indeed he had gone just king to g1 in this position. This is actually a terrible idea, because if queen takes... So this is like... These are beginner mistakes that I'd have made. King here. Pawn at d6. Just to seal you in. Takes. So why do you want to do that? Rook at f7. King to e8. Rook takes knight. Check. Blocks. Bishop takes f7. King to e7, and then knight to g6. So what did we achieve by just putting that? Why not go rook at f7 directly? King here, rook takes knight. So what do we achieve with this move again? I'm not... So, oh, the rook here gets pinned. So knight at d5 apparently is the finish. Knight takes, king forward, and bishop here. Okay, so that seems rather complicated. So what did we... I'm trying to figure out, what did we achieve again by going pawn at d6? Takes, rook here, back. I'm trying to figure this one out. I'm slightly confused. So what if we... Yeah, I see. What if... Okay, so if we didn't... Takes the knight. So why can't we just... Okay, so just again, why can't we just save up this pawn? So king here, king e8, rook takes here. I see. So he might not block with the pawn. He might just go king to e7. That's the problem. And then this rook is pinned. So in this line, if this, and in this position, if he goes king e7, then knight at d5 takes king to e6, bishop at f7, king to e5. Okay, so that's all by the by. So that's why bishop takes pawn, trying to get a pawn for checkmate is a bad idea. But so what's a good idea? A good idea is taking this bishop with check. Okay, king goes back to h1, then going back. Okay, king goes back to here. Oh, okay, that would be a good plan. So he is forced. So he's forced to take it. Okay, excellent. So is there anything else? Yeah. Okay. So take a diagonal with check was what I missed. So this is very good. And brilliant finish. Okay, excellent. Apparently, rook at h2 directly was also mating. Bishop takes g3, king takes, and then queen takes h4, king takes, and queen at g4 checkmate. So different move order also worked. Okay, let's actually get back up to the current game. So we haven't missed too much. It's another rover, but a rover as white. And the rook has got some nice compensation. It's opened up the h file and been exchanged for a knight. And castles. Okay, white's lost a pawn. What's he getting back in exchange? Looks like a nice bishop takes e6 is just begging to be played, but let's see what happens. No, knight takes f7 instead. So a double piece sack, very aggressive. But does white have enough here? I think he does. The bishop along the long diagonal. Can we just go back to the beginning, just see how white's piece is developed here? So you see, he develops his bishop along the long diagonal. He opens up the h file. And look how active his pieces are. So it's very aggressive. And quite a lot of choice. Yeah, this is very natural. Knight coming in with check is natural. If ever the king goes back to the back rank, the rook is hanging. If you block, then this check picks up the queen. In the meantime, the white king is very safe. If any check on h2, just king h1. So what does black do? So he can't step up because at f5 would be mate, and no time on the clock as well. And he just times out. So bishop at f7 apparently. Bishop f6. I'd have thought king to d7 would be more logical. Oh, but then queen takes bishop is annoying. Okay, so that's why this is played. And if this, you're dropping a rook on f8 and you're staying relatively safe. So after this, bishop takes, and then you try and save this rook. So you could get a position like this. It's at e6 is one idea. If you take it, queen at e7 is mate. And this is forced mate. If this, then at d7. So not enough. Intermezzo move. Put a heavy on. Doesn't help. King e7. Let's bring the knight f5 in. King e6. And rook f6. King e5 and at f4. Checkmate. Would be a way of mating using every piece in hand. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, I mean, if for AttackSparrow, this is absolutely standard fare from VariantsOnly to play h4 h5. It's no disrespect on his opponents. He plays it in the Crazyhouse candidates. Okay, so just a short little stream covering these games. Hope you enjoyed, and maybe I should raid someone. This doesn't give me very much choice. So So who should we raid? Let's just take a look. There's some 4-player chess happening. That's possible. Yeah, let's raid some 4-player chess. So we're going to raid Cha Cha Chess, who plays 4 players. Hope you enjoy, and thanks for watching. All my hundreds of viewers. Seems to be a quiet stream, I guess, because I'm not featured on Chess today. But enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, guys.